Hey, who here has heard of the potential for uh, quantum computers to break Bitcoin mining? Yeah, that's an interesting thing because um, you need so the algorithm that's used to break Bitcoin mining is called Grover's, and it doesn't scale very well on quantum computers. It actually only makes a 256-bit number 128 bits hard, and so that still is quite hard for computers to attempt to brute force. And so um, it turns out the real problem isn't necessarily uh, mining, it's signatures. So a different algorithm called Shor's algorithm. Raise your hand if you've heard of Shor's algorithm. Good, yeah. Uh, that one is essentially what would be needed to break the signature algorithm used by Bitcoin, which is right there, SecP 256K1. And the problem with like what makes when there are coins on Bitcoin, there's a certain number that are vulnerable. Their public keys, when they're exposed, they could be vulnerable to a sufficiently powerful quantum computer. There are a few scenarios where these keys could be exposed and make Bitcoin, like actual Bitcoin out there, coins out there, vulnerable to quantum computers. That would be if they're early, so Satoshi's coins, reused addresses. Taproot is actually a public key in the address, similar to the Satoshi coins. And anytime you sign a transaction and publish it to the mempool, you have to reveal your public key, and that makes you vulnerable as well. There are a lot of companies working on this problem right now, and it's a difficult field to understand the state of in some ways because a lot of it is secret. One thing we learned in 2013 from the Snowden leaks, Edward Snowden, he basically made it. We learned that the NSA had been working on developing a quantum computer for the purpose of breaking cryptography. The name of the program was Penetrating Hard Targets, and they were spending $80 million a year back in 2013 on two companies. They might be on here somewhere. The defense contractors, Honeywell and Raytheon. Back in 2019, a prominent Bitcoin dev named Peter Willey, he actually is one of the people who was most driving forward Taproot, the Taproot change, the upgrade. He said that there will likely be a long series of incremental breakthroughs that gives us time for more fundamental solutions. That was 6 years ago. I think there's going to be a point where we're going to need to adopt post-quantum cryptography and then migrate coins. The government, the United States government at least, has a timeline that they provided to contractors for the purpose of providing software and services to the federal government. They want to make, they want new solutions to have post-quantum cryptography in use by 2030, and they want to actually sunset elliptic curve cryptography entirely by 2035. This will take a little bit of time to fix, and also a concern of mine is that we might be surprised. So we need to work hard on solving this, and what do? We are currently using elliptic curve cryptography. It's all less than 100 bytes total between the public key and the signature. The post-quantum cryptography that we have in mind, we have a couple schemes that we've whittled down and that we've looked into, investigated. Ski sign was very promising in the beginning, but then we realized that the performance was terrible, especially in verification. It would be tens of thousands of times slower than elliptic curve verification, and so it could represent a DDoS vector, actually. And Falcon uses floating point math to do its thing, and that can be problematic when you're porting libraries to different targets with different floating point math implementations, and so that's also taken longer to get NIST approval, and so it's we likely for that reason, and so we're not very bullish on it. Crystal lithium would be really nice, but it's lattice based, and so it introduces a new cryptographic primitive. So we've been focusing the majority of our efforts on Sphinx, or SLH-DSA, which is a hash-based cryptography signature algorithm, and it can actually be the signatures can even be dialed down to maybe even 4 kilobytes because of if we reduce the security parameters a little bit, still be quite secure. The thing that Sphinx gives us is reusability of signatures, which are valuable in Bitcoin because of things like replace by fee, RBF. Also, there's something called child pays for parent. So you're gonna need to sign out. CPFP is not as relevant in that, but RBF is definitely a major component of Bitcoin that we're going to need to support because as fee rates go higher, we'll need to be able to sign a transaction over again. So I implemented a library called libbitcoinpkc, and we studied the size and also the performance of these algorithms, and it's worth spending a minute talking about Taproot for a moment. In Taproot, there's this part right here. It's a little concerning, especially if you're worried about elliptic curve cryptography becoming broken. And so in a new version of, we created a new address output type, and it's actually no longer called quantum resistant hash. It's actually going to be called TapScript hash, or P2TSH. So this needs to be updated. But we took the elliptic curve part out, and so if you've ever seen mempool, you can kind of see some of these like things here. There's this code's for R. That's push M3. We're actually going to need to put that to V2 actually, but that's our latest update. But yeah, so we're working on solving that problem at the protocol level, and then there's also like the concern of like what to do with Satoshi's coins, like other vulnerable coins. So about 2/3 of the Bitcoin network is going to be fine. It's behind hashed keys, so they're not as vulnerable, whereas Hourglass could actually be used to make it so that we throttle the spend of the older coins. I'm not 100% sure this is necessary, but if it is necessary, it's something that we've also have a BIP for, and so we could be prepared for that if that ever becomes a concern. There's also something called Hourglass V2, which essentially secures reused coins. coins and reused addresses, and the that may also not be as necessary because a lot of the coins and reused addresses are recently moved. So the assumption is that if there is a threat, people will move and upgrade, and so we may not even need this. But if we did do that, if we did use Hourglass v2, we might be able to stretch out these vulnerable coins, their capability to be spent over 120 years. But more likely, what we might come to is implementing a Stark's system that is operated by miners on each block that compresses transactions, post-quantum signatures, and it uses Starks to aggregate them, and it could give us something like 87 transactions per second, which is about 10 times more than what Bitcoin does, maybe more than that. So yeah, currently. So and if we don't have this and we all move to post-quantum cryptography, then we actually see a reduction of about 10x in Bitcoin's TPS. Because of the size of the public keys and signatures. Well, in SLH DSA, it's actually just the signatures that are quite large. So, if you're curious about the work that we're doing, bit360.org is a good place to keep an eye on that. And are there any questions?
I want to question about the consensus level. What do you think about the hash puzzle? Assume that I have a quantum computer. So with the Grover algorithm, I have quadratic speed up. All nodes have the classic computer. But if I have a quantum computer, I have a quadratic speed up in terms of for the Grover algorithm. So if assume that you all have a hash power of 2 to the 20, but I can have a hash power of 2 to the maybe 40, etc. So this is a threat for the consensus level, and I think that this threat is will be possible before the breaking elliptic curves, because this threat requires less resources than the other attacks.
That's interesting. That's news to me because Grover's doesn't scale as well as Shor's.
Yes, you're right. But I mean, I'm not meaning to attacking Grover for 126 security, because hash functions will be secure after quantum computers, but not for the hash puzzles, because hash puzzles requires very much less complexity.
But it's still a 256-bit number.
Because taking square root have meaning in this side. If you take the square root of 2 to the 200, you get 2 to the 100. But if you get square root of 2 to the 40, you get 2 to the 20. So we don't need scaling in here.
That's very interesting. Well, I honestly don't know what to say to that, because we've always kind of thought that Grover's was not going to be a big attack vector in Bitcoin because of the cost of running it. But the thing is that we're coming to learn is that there's a lot of room for improvement and creativity and possibility for disruption, and that's one thing I'm seeing, at least on the Shore side too, because one thing I've been looking into is the fact that we may need only 3n qubits to attack a quantum signature or a SecP signature. So that'd be 768 qubits, and they don't necessarily need to be error corrected either, because we can use post-processing to essentially work with the constructive interference. But as a result, you know, like they're always continuously hardware improvements. There's also software improvements, and they combine to become a major concern. Yeah, I mean, definitely reach out to me, bit360.org, and try to make your case for in maybe a more complete way to make sure that it's on my radar that, you know, Grovers is also a big threat. One thing I suspect is that if it is a threat, then what might occur is just a disruption of Bitcoin mining, similar to how we went from GPUs to ASIC miners, and then we'll just go to quantum computers, and so, you know, yeah, yeah. So I mean, you might be right, but then everybody will just upgrade, and the mining problem won't be so bad. But there's also still there's a lot of assumptions there. There's game theory, disruption, and centralizing forces, of course, and all of that. So it's going to be a really interesting time. And yeah, thank you for the feedback, and please reach out.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? We can do one more.
So I'm sorry if I missed, but your proposal for using quantum secure signatures is the solution for the next future transactions.
Mm-hmm.
What about existing wallets? I'm sorry if I missed the solution, but is there an optimistic solution for the existing ones?
Well, I mean, there might be ways to do like, for example, for Ethereum, their plan is to essentially use Starks to commit to BIP32 secrets in the wallet, and then they'll freeze everything, and then in order for you to spend your ethers or way or whatever they call it, they'll need to commit using Stark signatures, Stark proofs. But I mean, similar could be possible on Bitcoin as well, especially if we do BitZip. But in general, the assumption is that we'll have enough time to migrate to native addresses that are natively quantum resistant, or at least have a choice of quantum resistance. The way BIP360 would work would you would put your coins in a BIP360 address, and then you would when you go to spend them, you have the choice of elliptic cryptography or post-quantum cryptography. So it would be like optional for people who've prepared ahead of time. But for existing addresses, that's more complicated because you essentially have to freeze those addresses at a protocol level, at a consensus level, and then you'll essentially need to come up with a more sophisticated way for people to spend their coins using, say, BIP32 wallet secrets, BIP32 being the hierarchical deterministic wallet. So essentially, there's your 12 or 24 words, it's BIP39, and there's a whole bunch of cryptography between those words, that the entropy, the randomness, the seed, right, and the actual address generation, and in particular, or the key generation. And if you can go in between the key generation and the entropy, the seed phrase, and create Stark proofs from that part, then it could be possible to make it so that those addresses could be spendable once again, so long as you used a HD wallet to generate those keys. But the problem is, a lot of people don't use that. They'll use either like a BIP38 paper wallet, or there's also been cases where we've seen like HSMs being used to secure wallets for exchanges, and so and they don't necessarily, they might just generate the keys from their own entropy and not necessarily using BIP32, and so that would then make those coins permanently unspendable, and that could be an obstacle to that kind of deployment, especially on Bitcoin. Ethereum might also be a problem too. I mean, like, when I first used Ethereum, they had like JSON wallets, and like your key would just be in a JSON file, and there was no MetaMask, there was no like seed phrase, and so basically their solution would be to just freeze those funds entirely. And so maybe one way, if you're using Ethereum right now or anything like it, you might want to make sure you're not on a JSON file. You're using an actual HD wallet like MetaMask or something. So, yeah, it's something to be aware of. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.